Have you ever walked into a place you built from the ground up, only to be told you don't belong? What would you do if the very people trained to serve you decided, based on your appearance, that you weren't worthy of respect? Let's rewind to a sticky spring evening in Charleston, South Carolina, where the city glowed gold beneath the last stubborn rays of sun. Danielle Monroe should have been exhausted. She'd spent her morning bouncing between properties in Savannah, dodging phone calls, fielding stubborn board members, and signing stacks of contracts. Yet as she pulled up to the curb of the Kings Row Hotel, a glass and brick jewel she'd overseen from blueprint to ribbon cutting, she felt that sharp, familiar prickle of anticipation. Tonight, she would do what she'd always done best. See her business the way a guest saw it, unfiltered, unannounced, with no fanfare. Danielle never liked attention. That's why, tonight, there were no high heels, no Chanel clutch, no glimmering necklace screaming, "I'm important." Instead, she wore battered black sneakers, a pair of dark jeans, and a soft charcoal hoodie zipped halfway up her chest. Her hair, a wild, lovely crown of curls, was pulled low, and she wore no makeup. She looked like someone who was traveling alone, a woman who just wanted a place to sleep, not the powerhouse CEO who turned Monroe Hospitality Group into an empire. She stepped into the King's Row's lobby, and the hush of air conditioning brushed over her, cool and scented with something citrusy and clean. The lobby was beautiful. Her design, velvet couches, crisp lines, art that told Charleston's story from slavery to freedom to jazz to the Gullah Geechee, soul that hummed in every corner. A subtle pride lifted inside her, but pride could only shield you so much. Behind the reception desk stood a young man, early 20s, fresh haircut, pressed shirt, face blank from hours of polite monotony. Danielle approached with a gentle smile. "Evening," she said, her voice friendly, practiced. "I have a reservation." "Monroe." He barely looked at her. "First name?" he asked, his tone clipped, eyes flicking up and then quickly down as if afraid to linger. "Danielle," she answered. Click, click. The keyboard clattered, his brows furrowed. "Not seeing anything under that name." Danielle nodded unfazed. This wasn't her first time running the gauntlet. "Try D. King. It's under a corporate block. Should be a suite, king-level floor." The clerk's eyes moved back and forth across his screen. "There's a D. King reservation," he muttered. Then, without a trace of hesitation, looked up at her, voice suddenly firmer. "But that doesn't look like it's for you." The world for Danielle slowed just a notch. She'd heard that line in 100 variations over a lifetime. Still, she asked quietly, "What does that mean?" He shifted, clearly uncomfortable, but clinging to his perceived authority. "That reservation is for someone in our corporate division. I'm sorry, but—" His voice trailed off. Danielle offered a thin smile. "That's me. I'm with the corporate office. Actually, I—" Before she could finish, he cut her off, hand already reaching for the phone. "I'm going to have to call my manager." As he dialed, Danielle glanced around. A couple near the bar glanced over their wine glasses. An older man reading the newspaper lifted his eyes, curious. Danielle's skin prickled, not from shame but a deep, weary recognition. From a back office, a woman emerged. Tan slacks, burgundy blouse, sharp features. The name tag read, Pamela Jones, Assistant Manager. She exchanged a hurried, whispered conversation with the clerk, her gaze slicing in Danielle's direction. Then she approached, clipboard in hand, smile tight as a wound. "Ma'am," Pamela said, voice honeyed but eyes cold. "I understand you're trying to check into a corporate suite?" Danielle shook her head gently. "Not trying, I am. Reservations under D.K. King. That's a block I authorized myself." Pamela folded her arms. "And who exactly are you with?" Danielle, patience thinning, answered plainly, "Monroe Hospitality Group. I'm the CEO." There was a pause. Pamela's eyes went up, just barely in disbelief. "Do you have any identification?" Wordlessly, Danielle pulled out her wallet. She handed over her driver's license and her business card, with her name, Danielle Monroe, founder and CEO, printed in gold letters. Pamela barely looked at them, skepticism written across her face. Then, as if pulling out the oldest script in hospitality, she said, "You don't look like a CEO." It wasn't the first time. it would not be the last. Danielle raised an eyebrow but stayed silent. Pamela handed back the ID, still not convinced. Would you mind waiting over there by the window while I double-check a few things? Danielle's voice was steady. I'll stand right here. As the lobby grew more tense, a security guard appeared, hovering near the elevators. Watchful, not aggressive yet, but standing just close enough. You need something, ma'am? He asked, voice low but with a warning edge. No, Danielle replied, refusing to move. Just waiting for the front desk to confirm my reservation. The clerk piped up loudly. She's trying to check into the corporate suite. Says she's the CEO now. The guard straightened, hand dropping near his belt. A silent threat Danielle read all too well. She looked him dead in the eyes and said calmly, Is there a reason I'm being questioned by security for checking into a room I reserved? Pamela reappeared, this time holding a phone and a printed page. Her voice was still syrup-sweet, but the message clear. You don't belong. We follow protocol, Pamela said, and you showing up in jeans and a hoodie with no warning, it's just irregular. Danielle held her ground. Is it irregular because I didn't send a memo? Or because I'm not what you expected a CEO to look like? Pamela opened her mouth, closed it, eyes darting to the guard for backup. The clerk fidgeted. Guess whispered. This was it, the point where so many would back down, apologize, slip away. But Danielle Monroe didn't build her company by walking out when she was underestimated. She exhaled, calm and resolute. This is my hotel, she said, voice low but caring. My company built it. My team trained you. That suite was reserved to see if you could treat a guest right. Congratulations. You just failed. The silence in the lobby became thick as honey. Danielle's presence was electric, a storm about to break. But she didn't yell. She simply waited, letting the discomfort do what her words never could. Pamela, trying to reclaim control, said, I'd still like to confirm with someone at corporate, just to be sure. Danielle smiled, cool as steel. Go ahead. When you reach my assistant, ask her what happens when a team disrespects a senior executive during a mystery inspection. The manager hesitated. The clerk's fingers danced nervously, and the security guard looked anywhere but at Danielle. Outside, the city thrummed with life, unaware that the entire future of the Kings Row Hotel was about to shift in a single quiet battle over who truly belonged. Out on the chilly Charleston sidewalk, Danielle Monroe stood beneath the halo of the hotel's glowing sign, her phone pressed to her ear. The city moved around her. Cars honked. A distant saxophone spilled out of a jazz bar. Someone laughed too loudly from a rooftop. Inside, the drama continued. Staff whispering behind the desk, security hovering, Pamela pacing as she waited for her call to connect. Danielle's fingers didn't tremble as she dialed her assistant. Janet, she said, her tone clipped. I need you to call William and have him contact Kings Row Hotel. Use the internal line. Yes, immediately. Pause. Yes, they're playing with the wrong one. As Danielle ended the call, she caught her reflection in the glass doors. A tired woman in a hoodie, but with a gaze that had shattered bigger barriers than these. She watched as Pamela, still inside, fumbled with the office phone. The front desk clerk kept sneaking glances, caught between curiosity and dread. Inside, Pamela finally connected with the corporate line. She straightened, voice suddenly meek. Yes, this is Pamela Jones, assistant manager at Kings Row. I'm calling to verify a walk-in guest claiming to be a corporate executive. Danielle Monroe. On the other end, there was a moment of silence. Then a sharp voice sliced through the line. Did you say Danielle Monroe? Yes, she says she's the CEO. A pause. You mean the Danielle Monroe whose name is on your pay stub? The Monroe who owns the whole group? That Danielle Monroe? Pamela froze, color draining from her face. The voice came back, louder now. Put me on speaker, now. The clerk, hands shaking, tapped the speaker icon. Danielle, still outside, could see their faces. The guests in the lobby sensed a shift, a ripple of something real and unscripted. This is William Langston, Vice President of Operations, the voice boomed out, unmistakably authoritative. Who am I speaking with again? Pamela Jones, Assistant Manager. Why is the CEO of the company standing outside her own hotel right now? William's tone was surgical. Why was she denied her room and met by security? Pamela swallowed. I, I wasn't sure it was really her. And so you decided what? William pressed. That she didn't look the part? The question hung in the air, heavy and damning. The young clerk took a step back, as if wanting to melt into the floor. William's voice softened, but only to sharpen the blade. Tell me, did she raise her voice? Did she threaten anyone? Did she do anything except give her name and ask for her room? Pamela shook her head, cheeks burning. No, sir. Good. Now you're going to walk your ass outside, apologize to her, and offer her anything she wants. And you better hope this isn't your last day in hospitality. The line went dead. Pamela looked like she might faint. The security guard, who'd returned to his post by the elevators, shot her a worried glance. The guests tried to look away but couldn't help themselves. With a mechanical motion, Pamela opened the front doors. Danielle was still there, calm, scrolling through emails on her phone. Pamela's voice wavered as she began. Ms. Monroe, I want to sincerely apologize. There's been a huge misunderstanding. Your suite is ready. Please let me. Danielle looked up, her expression unreadable. You've confirmed who I am? Yes, of course. I spoke with William. Danielle finished for her. Not just corporate. William Langston. Pamela nodded, the embarrassment almost too much to bear. Danielle's voice was quiet, but her words had weight. 10 minutes ago, I was just a woman in a hoodie who couldn't possibly belong here. Now you're offering apologies because someone with a bigger title told you who I was. Pamela stammered, that's not. Danielle held up a hand. Save it. I'm not here for excuses. I'm here for accountability. She stepped past Pamela and strode back into the lobby, head high. The clerk looked up but quickly found a reason to busy himself with paperwork. Guests watched in fascinated silence. At that exact moment, the door swung open again. A tall, sharply dressed black man in a gray suit, carrying a leather folder and wearing a Bluetooth earpiece. His presence was magnetic, the sort that turned heads and settled rooms. He moved with the assurance of someone who had nothing to prove and everything to protect. He beamed when he saw Danielle. You all right? Julian, she replied, exhaling a little tension. They're learning. William briefed me. Let's get you checked in and make things clear for the team. As the two of them approached the front desk, the air shifted again. Julian Barrett was Monroe Group's Senior Operations Director, flown in from Charlotte on a moment's notice. His arrival meant one thing. This was now a crisis, not just a mistake. Pamela, desperate to save face, tried to smile. We've upgraded your suite, sent up champagne, fruit tray. Anything you need, Ms. Monroe, it's yours. Danielle didn't even look at her. Julian's gaze turned icy as he addressed the clerk. What's your name? Brandon, sir. You ever Google who signs your checks? Brandon blushed furiously. Julian slid a memo across the desk, a printout sent to all staff 2 weeks earlier, announcing unannounced CEO inspections. Pamela's cheeks flared red. She had seen that memo. She'd just never imagined the CEO would look like Danielle. Y'all had one job, Julian said, his voice flat. Treat every guest with respect. That's not just hospitality. That's basic humanity. Danielle's voice cut through, surprisingly gentle. The part that stings the most? I didn't even ask for special treatment. I didn't throw titles. I just wanted to be treated like everyone else. Julian nodded. You couldn't even get that. From the corner, the security guard shifted uncomfortably, the reality of what he'd just been part of slowly dawning. Just then, a new presence stormed in. Kendra Willis, regional HR, businesslike in a Navy suit, holding up a USB stick. Got the footage, she said. Lobby cams, audio from the desk. It's not a good look. Danielle's lips twitched. It rarely is. Kendra rounded on Pamela and Brandon. Office, now bring your story and make it the truth. The cameras already told theirs. As they shuffled into the back, Julian leaned closer to Danielle. You okay? She looked exhausted, but her chin stayed up. I'm tired of this script. You'd think someone would write a new ending by now. Julian offered a half smile. Not with people who only read the cover. Danielle looked up at the art wall she had commissioned, the stories of resilience and community. She let herself imagine, just for a second, a world where these battles no longer had to be fought. A few minutes later, Kendra returned, her face serious. Immediate sensitivity and anti-bias training for both. Brandon's on probation. Pamela, we're still deciding. Julian nodded. Good. Danielle stood, her gaze sweeping the lobby. I want every manager reminded. Bias is a liability. If you can misjudge me, you'll misjudge our guests. That's not a risk I'll tolerate. As she walked toward the elevator, heads bowed and whispers trailed in her wake. She didn't need to raise her voice, didn't need to threaten. Her presence was enough, a living, breathing reminder that sometimes the person you judge least likely to belong is the one who signs your paychecks. And tonight, as news began to leak out, on social media, on staff group chats, on the grapevine up the corporate ladder, the question pulsed across every Monroe property from Jacksonville to D.C. If it can happen to her, who else has it already happened to? The next morning dawned restless at Kings Row Hotel. Word had spread like wildfire. In every hallway, at every staff station, employees whispered about what had happened in the lobby the night before. By 7 a.m., the entire Monroe hospitality group had been summoned to a mandatory virtual meeting, an emergency leadership call where every general manager from Jacksonville to D.C. logged in, faces tense on their screens. Danielle, however, was not behind a laptop. She was walking the hotel corridors, pausing to greet housekeeping, stopping to ask the kitchen staff about breakfast orders, even sitting down with an older bellman to hear about his daughter's upcoming graduation. There were no cameras following her, no press in sight. Her leadership was quiet but all-encompassing, felt in the small moments as much as the big ones. At 9 a.m., she called for an all-staff meeting in the hotel's modest conference room. Every available team member gathered: front desk, housekeeping, maintenance, bar staff. Pamela sat stiffly near the end, eyes rimmed with red. Brandon stared at his hands, shoulders hunched. The rest shifted in their seats, unsure what to expect. Danielle entered simply. Black top, slacks, no blazer, no entourage. She didn't stand at the podium but at the head of the table, at eye level with everyone. Morning, she began, her voice steady but softer than usual. A few voices murmured, morning, back, wary. She looked around, pausing to meet each gaze. Most of you know me only by name. I'm Danielle Monroe, and yesterday I came here as a guest. Not your CEO, but just another person looking for a good night's rest. She let the silence linger. I didn't tell anyone I was coming because I wanted to see the truth. Not the version you save for corporate visits, but the reality you give to every guest, no matter how they look, what they wear, or where they come from. Her words settled over the room, heavy and real. What I experienced yesterday wasn't just disrespect, she continued. It was judgment. Assumptions made about who belongs and who doesn't, about what a leader should look like. That isn't just unfair. It's dangerous. If you can misjudge me, you can misjudge any guest who walks through these doors. Pamela blinked rapidly, guilt etched in every line of her face. Danielle's tone softened. This isn't just about me. I've been underestimated before. I'm still standing. But think about the guests who don't have a title or a platform or a William Langston on speed dial. Think about how many people have been made to feel like outsiders, here and in every corner of our industry. A hush fell over the room. Then Loretta, the senior housekeeper with silver braids, raised her hand. Ma'am, I've worked here since opening. I always felt this place was built with care. Yesterday, I saw we still got learning to do. I'm sorry you had to be the one to show us. Danielle offered a gentle nod. Thank you, Loretta. It's not about blame. It's about truth. That's how we get better. She turned to the group. There will be changes, not just here, but across every Monroe property. We're reevaluating our hiring and training, doubling down on anti-bias programs. More than anything, we're reminding everyone, respect isn't optional and judgment isn't your job. She locked eyes with Pamela. You still have a choice, Pamela. Grow from this or walk away, but you can't pretend it didn't happen. Pamela's voice was tiny. I want to learn. I want to stay. Danielle didn't smile, but her nod was permission enough. At the back, Julian Barrett cleared his throat. Ms. Monroe, you've got media requests coming in. It's gone viral. Staff video, TikTok, the lot. A ripple of anxiety swept through the room. Danielle took a breath, tired but unbroken. I'll handle the press, but what matters most is what happens here, how we respond, how we grow. She let her eyes rest on each staff member, her next words quiet but commanding. Don't treat people right just because you might get caught. Treat them right because it's the right thing to do. As she left the room, Danielle felt the weight lift from her shoulders. Not completely, but enough. She hadn't raised her voice, hadn't fired anyone on the spot. She didn't need to. Her presence had shifted something deeper. A culture, a memory, a lesson no one would soon forget. By midday, news outlets from coast to coast ran headlines. Black CEO denied room in her own hotel. Her calm response goes viral. Hospitality giant learns a hard lesson in bias. Monroe Hospitality's inbox was flooded. Some messages were apologetic, others outraged. Employees across the brand shared their own stories, some painful, some hopeful. The message was clear. People were watching, not just the guests, but the leaders. That Friday, Danielle stayed in Charleston, eating breakfast with guests, touring the property, speaking quietly with staff. She didn't court the cameras. She modeled what leadership looked like, steady, present, quietly relentless. On her last morning, Danielle stood at the hotel's front entrance, eyes resting on the bronze plaque she'd approved months ago. Her name, etched beneath the words, "For every guest who deserves to feel welcome." A middle-aged guest, briefcase in hand, paused beside her. He squinted at the plaque, then at her, connecting the dots. "You her?" he asked, half smiling. Danielle nodded. "That's me," he whistled, shaking his head. "Didn't expect the boss to look like that." Danielle's smile was wry. "Most don't," he laughed almost sheepishly. "Well, you built one hell of a hotel." "That's the goal," Danielle replied, letting the moment be enough. Julian joined her, his expression softer now. "You think they'll remember this?" Danielle was quiet for a long time. "I don't care if they remember me. I care if they remember what happened and why it matters." He nodded. "They will." As they headed toward the doors, Danielle glanced back, just in time to see a new front desk agent, a young black woman, glance up and meet her eyes. This time, there was a smile, a nod, a silent acknowledgement. "I see you. You belong here." Danielle returned the smile, then walked forward, not as someone who demanded power, but as someone who already had it and used it to open doors for others. Because sometimes the most powerful message isn't delivered in anger. Sometimes it's a quiet refusal to accept less than respect, a legacy written not in words but in action. So the next time someone looks at you and says, "You don't look like you belong," let them finish their sentence. Then go ahead and finish the story. Because what you build with grace, no one can deny you, not forever.